Hello, today we are going to be talking about factoring using the difference of perfect squares. Now, I kind of want to take us back first to our distribution unit. Now, let's go with an easy one. Let's say I had x plus 7, and then I had x minus 7, x minus 7. Well, something kind of fun happens when you ended up distributing that. Well, first off, when I distributed my x's, I ended up with an x squared. And then I ended up with a negative 7x. When I went to distribute my second term, I had positive 7x. And then finally, I had a positive 7 times a negative 7, which was a negative 49. And then my middle terms actually canceled out there. I had a negative 7 and a positive 7, and I was left with an x squared minus a 49. So this is kind of a curious pattern here, and this is known as our difference of two squares. And this occurs when we have a binomial, we have two terms, and they're both perfect squares. We're going to be able to factor this in a way where that middle term cancels out. So let's look at this one. Let's look at what we've got going on here. So I have 49x squared minus 9. And we really do not have a GCF here. 49 is only divisible by 7. X squared, we've got an x, and then I have a 9. So nothing factors out as a GCF. But I can factor this as a difference of two squares. I want the exact same thing for both of these binomials. But I want these to have a middle term that cancels out. So let's talk about 49 first. Well, 49 is 7 times 7. My x squared is going to be an x and an x. Now, in order for that middle term to cancel out, I'm going to need one to be positive and one to be negative. So I have a positive and a negative. Then finally, 9. What times itself is equal to 9? That would be 3. So I have 3 and 3. And if I were to multiply this out, if I were to distribute 7x times 7x is 49x squared, I would have a negative 21x, a positive 21x, those would cancel out, and then a 3 times a negative 3 would be a negative 9. So my factored out term would be 7x plus 3 and 7x minus 3. And there you go. All right, so that was level 1. Let's take a look at level 2 to see what we've got going on here. Ooh, I like these a lot. So here is what I have. I have 16x squared minus 1. Don't worry, I'll get this piece. 6x squared, where'd you come from? 6x squared minus 1. So when I go to factor this, first thing I always do is I look for a GCF. I have a 16x squared and a 1, and no GCF. Well, let's go ahead and break this up into our difference of two squares. All right, so when I go here, 16x squared. Well, 16x squared is going to be a 4 and a 4. And then my x squared will be an x and an x. I have plus, I have minus. I want that middle term to cancel out. And then finally, 1 is going to be 1 and 1. So 4x is 16x squared. Negative 4x, positive 4x, that cancel out. And then I have a negative 1. So my final solution here is 4x plus 1, 4x minus 1. All right, let's see if we can get a more difficult one here. Next problem. Here we go. All right, so here is what I notice. I have 49y to the 6th power minus x to the 4th power. I'm going to look first for any GCF. I don't have anything. I have 49 and 1. I have y's and x's. That doesn't work out. All right, so 49. 49 is going to break up evenly into 7 and 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Now, y to the 6th power. Y to the 6th power. This means that I have 6 y's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 y's. Now, I could write this as y times y to the 5th, but that's not going to get me a middle term that cancels out. The way I'm going to break this up is y to the 3rd times y to the 3rd. And if I were to multiply that out, 7 times 7 is 49. Y to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, that is y to the 6th. And here we go, plus minus. I have x to the 4th power. That breaks up evenly into x squared and x squared. And that is my factored term. I have 7y to the third plus x squared, and I have 7y to the third minus x squared. All right, so you should have enough information to get going on your difference of squares. What I did? Oh, darn, I had a typo. Silly me. All right, well, pretend that I did that right. So you have 7y to the third plus x squared, 7y to the third minus x squared. All right, so you should have enough to get started on your homework.